The reason there's a politics of fear right now is because fear sells. If you're a politician running on a campaign of fear, it's easy. It's much easier than having to sell hope. It's much easier than having to deliver a nuanced message. It's much easier to scapegoat a bunch of people. The same with the media. When you're bashing immigrants, when you're bashing refugees, unfortunately, for example, in the United Kingdom where I'm from, a lot of those tabloid newspapers get big sales from attacking asylum seekers, attacking refugees. So fear sells if you're a journalist, if you're a media organization. Fear also sells if you're a politician running for office. Be afraid. Be afraid all the time. Why? Because when you're afraid, you stop using your rational faculties, you stop using your critical faculties. You're much more likely, all the scientists say, that people who are afraid are much more likely to vote for an authoritarian leader, are much more likely to be willing to give up their civil liberties and freedoms. When you're afraid, you actually start behaving differently, you start voting differently, you start engaging and indulging political views that you perhaps never would have done before. So fear works in many ways to undermine democracy, to undermine civil liberties, to undermine pluralistic societies. And we live in a time where there's a war on terror post 9/11, so-called, a financial crisis and the recessions we saw after 2008, an era of great trauma, of migrant movements, of wars and conflicts. And it's a good time for people to scapegoat. It's a good time for people to say, you know what? The reason you lost your home is not because you got, you got exploited by some corporation or bank or some politician. The reason you lost your home is because of your Mexican neighbor, is because of your Muslim neighbor, is because of your black neighbor. So it's much easier to scapegoat people rather than to find real solutions to real problems. And unfortunately, we live in an age where countries are changing a great deal, and a lot of people in those countries don't like change.